Let me be straight. I'm a person who doesn't watch airing anime, and going through a backlog, it's not often you find a show that breaks all your expectations. How could a story seemingly about sword collecting be so different from any fantasy adventure show before it? Well, after just a couple of months from my last review, today a review of Sword Fetish. Katanagatari. They're the same thing anyway. Our adventure begins with Togami, a strategist who seeks the help of Yasuri Shichika, the seventh head of a Kyotoru fighting style, a style that in its core boils down to a swordsman who fights without a sword. Together, the two unlikely allies journey across Edo-era Japan to gather 12 legendary swords known as the Deviant Blades. Katanagatari, a simple story with an equally simple goal, to collect 12 legendary swords, and with that premise alone, the show already plays with your expectations. At a glance, Katanagatari might seem like your stereotypical action-adventure series, and for the first episode, you're not entirely wrong. Togami seeks the help of Shichika, and as they embark on their journey, they're confronted by generic villain 101 who almost seems purposely badly written. The two of course defeat him and acquire one of the 12 swords. Apart from some witty remarks and comedic cues, the episode was fairly generic and even bland at times. It's only until the end of episode 2 where you slowly start to realize that Katanagatari is actually making fun of cliched action adventures. While not a blatant parody, the show likes to poke fun at many tropes seen within the genre. In one instance, Togami says that Shichika should have his own catchphrase he says before defeating an opponent, and for 10 minutes the two banter about what type of one-liners would suit him most. This may sound tedious and even a bit boring by me explaining it, but the scene is clever and comically funny when you experience it yourself. The jokes themselves are smartly written and doesn't limit itself to predictable gag comedies. They have many play on jokes that are revisited later on. An episode of Katanagatari is 45 minutes, and these episodes were released 1 month for a year. 12 episodes, 12 swords. Clever, right? Knowing how it was released, Katanagatari is episodic, with an episode typically dealing with a character who wields one of the 12 deviant blades, whom Togami and Shichika must defeat. In that sense, you can almost think of the show's structure by being Monster of the Week. While you might expect the show to focus on the epic fight scenes our characters have to face, the main bulk of the series comes from its cleverly written dialogue between its characters. Yes, for a show seemingly obsessed about swords, the real meat of it comes from characters talking. Now, if you couldn't have guessed from the name alone, Katanagatari was created by Nisio Isin, who also created the much more popular Monogatari series, which I have yet to see, but from what I understand, verbose dialogue is what the franchise was known for. Well, that and Shimbo's trademark directing. Likewise, Katanagatari is very well scripted with some truly brilliant and witty conversations between characters. Each exchange of words is not only funny, but engaging. Even when talking about trivial matters, the dialogue manages to entice you and leave you hungry for more. While it may even be superfluous at times, it's impossible to resist just how charming and brilliant the characterization is. The dialogue serves to shape the small changes and nuances each character develops and never felt like obvious exposition being thrown in. While slow-paced at times, the show wants you to pay close attention to what characters say and how they say it, whether it's the punchline of a joke, making characters seem ambiguously evil, or simply just reassuring their own philosophy. Indeed, if you've seen or heard about it, Katanagatari is dialogue heavy, and that can turn some people off. While the story itself isn't groundbreaking in any sense, the show is episodic in nature, and after a few episodes, the formula can become fairly predictable and repetitive. It normally starts out with Togami and Shichika having playful and snarky banter, either leading to a joke or furthering their platonic relationship, at which point they meet their opponent, discuss their ideals, and have a battle to end it off. You almost always know that Shichika will defeat his opponent with relative ease, but not before having a hefty amount of dialogue before the fight. Many times, it's often hinted that our characters have to face increasingly stronger opponents, and the show is smart enough to trick you into thinking that there might actually be a grand and epic battle coming, although the series can just outright troll you by not showing the fight and only have characters explain how awesome it was. While most stories adhere to the rule show don't tell, Katanagatari does not believe in that philosophy. Having great dialogue is obviously a plus, but having strong characters behind them makes it even better, which leads me to the star stars of the show. Shichika literally starts off as a boring and emotionless character who lacks any basic social skills. This is of course attributed to the fact that he's never left his home island and the only people he got to interact with were his sister and father who had passed away. Shichika doesn't think of himself as a person but as a sword, a tool to be used, so when Togami asks him for his help, his interest doesn't lie in the journey but rather the passion and dedication Togami has for her father. For all intensive purposes, Shichika is a tool for Togami to use and is often unremorseful for his enemies. Throughout the course of the show, Shichika noticeably changes, initially starting out as unsympathetic. Through his great interactions with Togami and other characters, he learns the values of love, compassion, humor, and even mercy. With all the people he comes across on his journey, each of them adds subtle changes in his attitude which becomes ever more prevalent as time goes on. His adventure with Togami is what molds and shapes him into the person he is at the end of the series. Togami, on the other hand, is easily one of the best written female characters I've ever seen. Her cunning, prideful, and even feisty personality outshines anyone in the entire show. She's got a dominating presence anytime she's on screen and steals the spotlight for most of the show. Togami's motivation for collecting the swords are to avenge her father's death by fulfilling his wishes. While not physically strong, Togami comes up with many devious schemes to help Shichika overcome his opponents. Though not always completely fair, it's interesting to see how it all unfolds. When scheming a dubious plan, it's shown through the use of a snake eye. While ambiguous, her snake eye represents her true inner colors that, under the frisky facade she puts up, Togami harbors many hidden emotions, showing us that deep down she might be a rather callous and cold-blooded serpent. Togami doesn't follow under any archetype and feels like a genuine person. Her relationship with Shichika makes for some of the most funny and well-rounded interactions. The character dynamic is so playful and witty that it rivals Hollow's and Lawrence's from Spice and Wolf. As for the supporting characters, each of them are given roughly an episode of screen time, with some coming back towards the end. The show manages to give each character their own unique quirk and personality. While not fleshed out as you'd want it to be, most characters get backstories that each gives us insight behind their core motivation of why they fight. Each of these characters more or less represent a human trait that Shichika is missing, but they aren't so one-dimensional that they have nothing of substance. They all have their own personal stories to tell, but by all means aren't badly written. Well, except for the ninja. Fuck that guy. Yes, while I did say that the supporting characters were somewhat well-rounded, that only applied to the opponent Shichika had to defeat. Besides them exist the Maniwani Ninja Corps, who are also looking for the blades. To me, the Maniwani's existence almost felt entirely meaningless. Firstly introduced as a dangerous third party and contender of the Deviant Blades, as the series went on their presence dwindled and almost felt like they existed just to be killed off by other characters, or themselves. Although there was one episode where it followed 3 Maniwani and introduced them as being human and sympathetic characters. It was a nice change of pace and juxtaposed that not all of them were cold-blooded killers, as some were just doing their duty. I even found myself rooting for them in an instance, only to have them completely slaughtered by Nanami just to show how ruthless she is. The Maniwani's existence just felt awkward and a bit ridiculous at times, and the series could have done without them. Besides, let's be honest here, they're furries. Now, if you had spent any time looking on screen, you can tell that Katanagatari has a very unique art style that you've probably never seen before. It has such a wacky and whimsical style that's almost cartoonish in a way. While simplistic, the attention to detail in its surrounding and character designs are a treat. The flurry of colors and art direction shown for the various seasons the show takes place in makes the world come alive. Whether it's a snowy, desolate mountain range conveying the loneliness of characters, or a beautifully peaceful shrine atop a 1,000-step hill. Nevertheless, with great art direction comes some well-choreographed action scenes despite only lasting a few minutes at best. Now, I wouldn't say that the animation itself is too spectacular, as it's decently animated for the most part, although the only noticeably badly animated segment was an action scene in episode 7. The art direction did slightly change, giving it a thicker outline to its characters, which I thought worked pretty well. It gave an aesthetic that felt like it was from an old traditional folktale, and given the tone of the episode, I'd say it was a great choice. Though, despite it being one of my favorite episodes, the fight was, well, this. Oh, that's animation alright. The openings and endings, however, are a visual treat to look at and epitomizes the colorful setting of the world, with both songs being pretty good in their own right. However, Katanagatari did receive a third opening in 2013 and is easily the best out of the 3, not only in visuals but in song choice as well. The visuals are just spectacular and even foreshadows climactic events if you look hard enough. The song is by Supercell, and if you know who they are, do I even need an explanation? It's amazing. As for the soundtrack itself, I don't have much to say besides that it's consistently good throughout. throughout, some tracks utilize rap with a mixture of Japanese and English under a backscore of traditional Japanese music. The score is overall pretty good, setting the tone of a scene, with some tracks standing out more than others. The voice acting is obviously great, otherwise it would be impossible to convey such dynamic characters. Yoshimasa as Shichika portrays such a believable monotone voice initially, only to slowly dissipate and convey stronger emotions as the series progresses. Yukari plays the perfect Togami, really bringing the character alive. Her performance is just so well done. There are so many more great roles, but I'd be sidetracking. Overall, Katanagatari is a unique series with great... Hold up. I haven't even talked about the ending yet. While you might think that the story doesn't have an overarching purpose since the episodes are formulaic and predictable to an extent, the finale however subverts all its ideas to form one thematic purpose that was ever subtly present throughout the whole series. The legacy of your family or empire can lead to your downfall, that you should become your own person and not be burdened by the weight of someone else's legacy. Shichika is the only living representative of his Kyoto fighting style and so acts as a sword to preserve his family's legacy, while Togame's burning desire to avenge her father fuels her mission, and in that sense, Togame is no more than a sword herself, with her father's legacy essentially driving her. Just as Shichika is a tool for Togame's will, she herself is bound by her father's wishes. By the end, Shichika learns to think and behave by himself without the will of Togame, while she ends up causing her own downfall. In a series so obsessed with swords and the weight of legacy, it's ultimately a story about love and self-discovery, Shichika being the epitome of what the series stands for. All in all, Katanagatari is a consistently great series with amazingly written dialogue, captivating duo of characters, and an alluring art style. While a bit predictable and tedious at times, the ending perfectly encapsulates everything the series was building up to. And with that, we go to the arbitrary scores, which I keep out of principle, rewarding Katanagatari a stellar 8. While there isn't much anime I can say that are definitely close to Katanagatari, I'll do my best. For another series with great dialogue, check out Tatami Galaxy. While missing the great character interactions, it makes up for in an ever-changing dynamic art style and thematic ending. Also check out Spice and Wolf, previously mentioned for its great dynamic duo, Holo and Lawrence. Oh, and I guess you also learn about economics. Unfortunately, Katanagatari is not licensed, so the only way to watch it is on secret Netflix. Good luck with that. I know this is a way overdue video, so thanks for sticking till the end. My upload may be inconsistent, but at least I didn't quit reviewing to copy every frame of painting. Anyway, it's been Kevin, and I'll try to upload more consistently. No promises though.
Cheerio! Áo dài vui, áo dài hát, bao nắng xuân đang về.